The day it happened started like any other, but the outcome was something I could have never prepared for. I'd been cleaning the guest room, dusting shelves and straightening pillows, when I heard the faint sound of footsteps approaching. Nothing unusual, I thought. Just the rhythms of a household. But as I turned to leave the room, I caught a glimpse of him, my stepson, standing in the hallway. The moment felt surreal. He'd clearly just gotten out of the shower. His hair was wet, droplets trailing down his face and neck, and he was wrapped only in a towel that hung dangerously low on his hips. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air seemed to crackle with something unspoken. I knew I should have looked away, but I was rooted to the spot, caught between embarrassment and something far more complicated. "Oh, sorry," he mumbled, his voice carrying a mixture of surprise and discomfort. He adjusted the towel awkwardly, holding it in place as if it might betray him at any second. I nodded, forcing a tight smile. "No problem," I replied, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed a tremor I couldn't quite suppress. He turned quickly, retreating toward his room, and I released the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My heart was pounding, and a part of me felt ridiculous for the reaction. But another part couldn't shake the image of him from my mind. From that day forward, things shifted. Subtly at first, a lingering glance here, an awkward silence there, but enough to make me notice. He seemed to find reasons to be near me, whether it was offering to help with chores or simply hanging around the kitchen while I cooked. And I found myself hyper-aware of his presence in a way that unsettled me. One evening, as I was wiping down the dining table, he walked in and leaned against the doorway. "Need any help?" he asked, his tone casual but his gaze anything but. "I've got it," I replied quickly, avoiding eye contact. But he didn't leave. Instead, he stepped closer, picking up a dish towel and drying the dishes I'd just washed. "You're always doing everything around here," he said after a moment, his voice soft. "You should take a break sometimes." The words were innocent enough, but the way he said them sent a shiver down my spine. I turned to thank him, but the intensity in his eyes stopped me. For a moment, it felt like the world had shrunk to just the two of us. I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears, and I had to force myself to look away. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between us became almost palpable. He'd brush past me in the hallway, his touch lingering just a fraction too long. I'd find him watching me from across the room, his gaze steady and unreadable. And then there were the conversations, seemingly innocuous, but always laced with an undercurrent I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, I was in the laundry room, sorting through a pile of clothes when he appeared in the doorway. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice light but his eyes serious. "No, I'm fine," I replied, trying to sound breezy. But he didn't leave. Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "You work too hard," he said, his tone low. "You're always doing things for everyone else. When do you take care of yourself?" I swallowed hard, suddenly very aware of how small the room felt. "It's not a big deal," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat radiating off him. "It is a big deal," he said, his gaze locking onto mine. "You deserve more than that." The room seemed to tilt, the air thick with something I couldn't name but felt deep in my bones. I knew I should step back, create distance, break whatever spell had fallen over us. But I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I could only stand there, caught in the gravity of the moment.